Hello, I am Alon Burstein, visiting assistant professor in the Department of Political Science and Israel Institute Fellow at the University of California, Irvine, and I am here to give you the updates on the last 24 hours of the Israel-Hamas war. So it's currently the eve of October 19th, 2023 in the United States, and the morning of October 20th, 2023 in the Middle East. Starting with the aftermath, the hostage situation. The Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, made an official announcement today that there are over 200 kidnapped Israelis. This includes military personnel and civilians that are being held by Hamas and the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Of these, there are identified 30 children and 10 to 20 elderly people. In addition, it was reported there are over 100 Israelis that are still considered missing, and it is unknown what happened to them at this time. It is possible that they are also held by the organizations, or that they were killed in the initial attack on October 7th and their bodies were kidnapped back to the Gaza Strip by the organizations, or that their bodies are still strewn along the way on the border between Israel and the Gaza Strip. The IDF has been collecting bodies of Israelis from the initial attack on October 7th every day. In addition, France announced today that 28 of its citizens were killed in the initial attack, and 7 are considered missing, and some are confirmed kidnapped as well. And the United States announced that 32 of its citizens were killed in the initial attack, and 11 are still missing. Now, going on to the ongoing fighting. As every day, there were continued attacks of rockets and missiles from the Gaza Strip into the south of Israel and the center of the country. So rockets today targeted Ashkelon, Ashdod, Beersheva, Gush Dan, the Shfela, Netivot, and Tel Aviv. There were several direct hits in the town of Sderot. In addition, those continued Israeli bombardments into the Gaza Strip. The IDF made no claim of how many attacks occurred today. However, it did say that it was targeting Hamas infrastructure, launch sites, tunnels, and ammunition warehouses. There were a couple of high-profile assassinations that took place. So the first woman to ever serve on Hamas's political bureau, Jamila Ashanti, was killed. At this point, it is not confirmed if that was a direct assassination or if she was killed in one of the bombardments. In addition to that, what are confirmed assassinations are the National Security Commander of Hamas and the leader of the military wing of the Popular Resistance Front, Rafat Hussein, who was assassinated in the town of Rafah. The Popular Resistance Front is an organization that was established in the Gaza Strip in the year 2000, started with the Second Intifada, and has since grown in popularity, and it brings together members who are more religious, formerly in Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and more secular in Fatah. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, since the beginning of the Israeli bombardments of the Gaza Strip, 3,785 people have been killed. Among them, 1,500 are children, and 12,500 people have been injured. In addition to that, following U.S. pressure after President Biden's visit to Israel, and in coordination with the UN Secretary General who is currently visiting Egypt, there does appear to be some breakthrough in the humanitarian relief front. So there are reports that a deal has been struck, and humanitarian relief that includes water, food, and medicines is going to be allowed to flow into the Gaza Strip through Egypt, through the Rafah crossing. Egypt also confirmed this and said that they are going to begin preparations to prepare the Rafah crossing tomorrow already in order to allow this influx of humanitarian aid. Israel has repeatedly stated that if intelligence comes in that Hamas is confiscating this and using it for its own personal needs, that Israel will no longer allow the aid to continue to flow in. Moving on to the West Bank. There was a Palestinian today that was killed, according to the Palestinian Health Ministry, by the violence of an Israeli settler. In addition, 10 Palestinians were killed in various different confrontations with the IDF. The main fighting took place around the town of Tulkarem, in which one Israeli soldier was also killed. In addition, Hamas leader and one of the prominent founders of the group, Hassan Youssef, was arrested today in the West Bank, and 63 other members were arrested by the IDF. The IDF reported today that since the beginning of the war, it has arrested over 300 Hamas members in the West Bank. Now going on to the north of Israel. Continued low-level escalations, as is every day, between Israel and the Hezbollah movement and other organizations in the north. So today, Hezbollah fired an anti-tank missile into a kibbutz on the border, and it hit a house. No one was injured there. In addition, there was a barrage of 25 rockets from southern Lebanon into various parts of the north of Israel. Some of these targeted the Galilee, some Nahariya, some Rosh Nikra. Importantly, Hamas claimed responsibility for these attacks from southern Lebanon. Hamas has an active presence in Lebanon, and it does have troops in southern Lebanon. However, the IDF stated that even if this is Hamas, they could not have fired those rockets without Hezbollah approval, and that the IDF will be retaliating against both organizations in Lebanon. The total of rockets that were fired today was roughly 30. In addition, moments ago, it was reported that the IDF is activating its plan to evacuate the town of Kiryat Shmona. Kiryat Shmona is one of the bigger Israeli towns close to the border with Lebanon. We reported a few days ago that the IDF has prepared plans in the event of further escalations to evacuate these towns. Just literally 10 minutes ago, the IDF announced that it is beginning plans to evacuate the town of Kiryat Shmona, so this may be with some looming intelligence of what may be coming. On a similar vein, the U.S. Embassy today in Lebanon called on the citizens to leave the country while there are still commercial flights operating, and Germany soon after that issued a similar call. Now on to another interesting brewing front. There was a lot of other activity that happened today in other locales in the Middle East that are associated with this. There were 3 missiles that were shot from Yemen towards Israel. I remind you that Yemen has a large presence of the Houthi rebels that are associated with Iran, and they had made threats in the past that if Israel continues its escalations with the Gaza Strip, or if the United States gets involved, they are going to get involved in the war. They took responsibility for firing 3 missiles and another unknown aircraft towards Israel. These were all shot down by U.S. warships. And in addition to that, Iraqi militias that are also Shiite and loyal to Iran today fired several mortar fires into a base in northern Iraq that houses U.S. and foreign troops. Both these things appear to be signals from Iran to take their threat seriously. So just as a reminder, Iran has said in the past that if Israel gets into war with Hezbollah in Lebanon, Iran is going to retaliate. The United States then said that if that happens, Iran is going to face the United States. And at that time, different militias in Iraq and the Houthi rebels in Yemen all said that in that case, they will get involved in the war as well. The fact that these two things happened within a span of a few hours, both the Houthi rebels sending missiles towards Israel and mortar fires from one of these militias in Iraq attacking a base that houses U.S. troops, is, in my assessment, not a coincidence. It is part of this signaling that Iran is doing with the United States. On to some of the political and general trends that happened today. President Biden announced that he's asking the U.S. Congress for a $14 billion aid package to Israel, and this is part of a $100 billion aid package that is meant to go to support war efforts in Israel and in Ukraine and to strengthen Taiwan. Russia today stated that any attempt to bring Iran into the war is going to be seen as a provocation, and China also spoke to the Egyptian president and called for a ceasefire. So this appears to be part of the new trend where Russia is siding with Iran as a result of their growing ties following the war with following the war in Ukraine. And in addition to that, the United States is bolstering its support for Israel, reminiscent of the Cold War in the past. In addition, Scotland's Prime Minister today announced that Scotland would be willing to accept Gazan refugees. This is the first country that has said that in the event that the war continues to escalate, it may accept refugees from Gaza into its territory. This is mainly declarative, though, since Scotland does not actually control who is allowed into territory or not. This is controlled by the federal government in London. In addition, the UK Prime Minister was visiting Israel today, and he made several speeches. He continued the current trend of being complete supportive of Israel, denouncing Hamas, denouncing the attack, and saying that Israel has a complete right to defend itself. However, he also said that this right is contingent upon or is associated with developing more humanitarian aid and humanitarian corridors into the Gaza Strip. And he also called upon Israel to allow Gazans with British citizenship to leave the Gaza Strip and be evacuated to Britain. That is a report from the last 24 hours. I will be back tomorrow.